Tonight, let me tell you the story of the kitchen god's gentle ledger, a tale from Vietnam that does not rise with thunder or fall with war, but lingers softly where families gather every evening. Imagine a room lit by a lantern, the walls carrying the scent of rice steaming and herbs releasing their quiet fragrance. Outside, the evening. Rain has begun to fall, tapping gently against tiles. Inside, a child crouches near a small altar by the hearth. He peers at the offerings, fruit, a small cup of tea, sometimes a piece of candy saved from a holiday. He wonders, who comes to visit this little altar? His grandmother tells him it belongs to the kitchen gods, Ong Tao, the guardians of the home stove, who write down the life of the family in a book not of punishments, but of simple observations. The story begins with a humble hearth, because in Vietnam, as in many places, the kitchen is the beating heart of the home. Around it, rice is shared, soup simmers, and conversations drift like smoke. In one telling, there are 3 kitchen gods, each with their own role. They are said to have once been mortals caught in a tangle of love and kindness. One man, one woman, and her husband, linked by care and misunderstanding, who through sacrifice became guardians of all household fires. Yet over centuries, the story softened, so that instead of fiery tragedy, what remained was warmth. 3 figures who do not rule kingdoms, but keep watch over pots and pans, gently writing down how families treat each other. As the child listens, he imagines them with brushes made of bamboo, sitting at a low table near the smoke of the evening meal. They do not frown at mistakes. They note laughter when siblings tease each other. They write carefully when apologies are whispered. And they underline moments when rice bowls are passed from hand to hand. The ledger is not a list of sins, but a diary of kindness. Some say that at the end of each year, the kitchen gods ride carp-shaped clouds to the heavens, carrying their notes to the Jade Emperor. But rather than stern reports, imagine them handing in pages filled with gentle lines. They laughed at dinner. They forgave quickly. They gave food to a neighbor when it rained. The grandmother explains that before the Lunar New Year, families clean their homes and offer the kitchen gods sweet foods, even sticky rice cakes brushed with honey, so that the words spoken above will be sweetened too. Children listen wide-eyed, delighted at the thought of gods tasting sugar, then speaking kindly of their household. A bamboo flute might play outside, drifting from a neighbor's porch. The family feels comfort in knowing that someone, somewhere, keeps a record of their warmth. Now pause for a moment. Picture a simmering pot, its lid rattling lightly as steam escapes. The clink of chopsticks rests in the air, and rainwater gathers in small channels outside. In that gentle scene, the myth becomes more than a tale. It is a reminder that daily life, so often overlooked, is sacred. Cooking for someone, pouring tea, forgiving after a small quarrel. All these are as mighty as temples or battles when written into the kitchen ledger. As the story carries us deeper, let us follow not just the gods, but the people who keep them company. Imagine a young woman in a riverside village. She rises early to prepare morning rice, her sleeves rolled back, her hair pinned neatly. She places a small cup of water on the altar before lighting the stove. To her, Ong Tao are not distant figures but companions. She whispers her hopes as she tends the fire. That her brother, away fishing, returns safely, that her mother's cough eases, that the season brings gentle rains. She believes her words, caught in the smoke, will be carried to the gods' ears, written softly into their book. And when she hears the crackle of kindling, she feels as though her prayers are answered with warmth. Scholars sometimes ask whether these kitchen gods are unique to Vietnam, or if they echo other traditions. In China, there is the Zhao Jun, also a stove god, who makes his report to the Jade Emperor. In other places, hearth spirits flicker in folklore, always tied to the flame. Perhaps the hearth is so central to life its fire both cooking and comforting, that people everywhere imagine guardians near it. What is distinct in Vietnam is the tenderness. The story of 3 human figures turned protectors, the practice of sending them off on paper horses or carp each year, and the idea of a gentle ledger more than a stern balance sheet. The child by the altar, listening to his grandmother, feels his restlessness fade. The storm outside no longer feels sharp but soft, like a lullaby on the roof. He closes his eyes and imagines pages turning in the ledger, each line written with kindness. For him, the kitchen gods are not strangers in the smoke, but familiar neighbors. He drifts toward sleep with the thought that someone is watching, not to scold, but to remember. And so part 1 of this night's story settles like steam across the room. What begins as curiosity becomes comfort. The ledger is open, the brush is steady, and each small kindness has been recorded. We will continue in the next part to walk deeper into the rituals of the year, to see how families prepare their offerings, and to learn why even carp swimming in the river are thought to be companions of the kitchen gods. But for now, let the rain fall, let the fire glow, and let your breath slow, as if you too are being written into a book of warmth. The rain has quieted now, leaving only the soft dripping from the eaves. The child at the altar leans closer to the flame, feeling the calm that follows a storm. His grandmother begins another story, one that flows gently like a river. She explains that as the year draws near its close, every family takes time to honor the kitchen gods, to thank them for keeping watch over their hearth. It is not done with grand festivals, but with homely gestures. The stove is cleaned, pots are scrubbed until they shine, and the altar is polished. A plate of fruit is set out, perhaps bright tangerines or a cluster of bananas, their sweetness like a small festival in itself. The heart of the ritual is the offering that sends the gods on their way. In some homes, paper horses or carp are burned so that the kitchen gods may ride swiftly to heaven. In others, families release real carp into rivers or ponds, their scales flashing under winter light. The carp is chosen because it is strong, able to swim against current, symbol of perseverance and transformation. Just as carp can leap and become dragons in old tales, so too the kitchen gods rise on their backs, carrying gentle words upward. It is said that the Jade Emperor listens to their reports, but in Vietnamese telling, the reports are softened by sweet offerings, by the smoke of incense, by the kindness of memory. Imagine the child following his father to the river's edge. The sky is pale with late afternoon, and the water carries the reflection of bare branches. In his hands, the father holds a bowl with 2 small carp, golden and silver, tails flicking slowly. They kneel and release them into the river. The carp dart away, leaving ripples that stretch outward like circles of time. For the child, it is not only an act of ritual, but a promise. Each year, no matter what happens, the kitchen gods depart and return, linking the family's life to the larger rhythm of heaven and earth. The grandmother adds that some families leave offerings of sweet sticky rice with honey. The idea, she says, is that when the kitchen gods speak in heaven, their lips are sweetened. Words of forgiveness come easily when the tongue remembers sugar. It is not trickery, but a playful kindness, a way of reminding everyone that harsh judgment is not the heart of home. The gods, like family elders, smile more readily when greeted with warmth. And so the altar becomes a place of reassurance, not of fear. In one telling, the 3 kitchen gods, 2 men and 1 woman, were caught long ago in a story of loyalty and sacrifice. A woman named Trong Chau had once loved a man named Pham Lang, but fate separated them. Later, she married another, yet when the first returned, kindness compelled her to care for him. Misunderstandings flared, and in their sorrow, all 3 lives ended in fire. The Jade Emperor, moved by their loyalty and their pain, transformed them into guardians of the hearth. Since then, they have dwelled by every stove, bearing witness to meals and moments of tenderness. Though the old story carries sadness, most families remember not the tragedy, but the transformation. From sorrow to guardianship, from loss to protection. It is a reminder that even mistakes and heartbreak can become sources of care. The child listens quietly. He wonders how many stories are written in the God's book. Perhaps thousands, millions, each page filled with notes of small joys. A grandmother humming while stirring soup, a father fixing a broken chair, siblings sharing mango slices under the hot season sun. Perhaps the gods' handwriting is uneven because they are always writing quickly. So much kindness to keep up with. The thought makes him smile. Beyond one home, the custom ties whole communities together. Neighbors help one another clean their kitchens before New Year, sharing water from the well, exchanging sweets. The riverbanks are full of families releasing carp. Lanterns float in the dusk, and the air smells of incense and wood smoke. It is not a festival of noise, but of gentle belonging. Scholars who have studied the rite say it reminds people that the hearth is not only private, but also part of the world's larger circle. To tend your stove well is to tend your place in the community. In another telling, the kitchen gods do not travel far. Instead, they rise with the smoke. Of each meal, their reports whispered into the night sky daily, not just yearly. This version comforts those who fear their kindness will be forgotten. The gods' gentle ledger is updated not only once, but continually, line after line, breath after breath. And so each bowl of rice, each word of thanks, is written immediately, like a song that never pauses. Picture the child now lying on a mat, eyes heavy, hearing the sound of rain fade into the distant call of night insects. He imagines carp leaping from river to sky, carrying tiny books bound in red thread. He imagines the Jade Emperor leaning close, smiling at the notes. They shared their bread. They made peace before sleeping. They sang to their child. He feels a calmness settle over him, as though every gentle act is preserved forever, safe in divine hands. And so the second part of our story closes softly. The rituals of farewell have been told, the carp have swum into the clouds, and the sweetness of offerings lingers in the air. In the next part, we will step further back, to ask why so many cultures place guardians by the fire, and how the idea of a gentle ledger can change the way we live. But for now, let the night deepen. Let the ledger pages turn slowly, and let the warmth of the hearth be the last light you see before dreams arrive. The night has grown quieter, and the child near the altar has drifted almost fully into dreams. His grandmother's voice, soft as the steam that rises from the pot, carries the story into its last stretch. She says that across the world, people have always placed guardians by their fires. In Greece, Hestia kept the hearth flame steady, so that every journey could begin and end with warmth. In Rome, families whispered thanks to their household spirits, the lares, who stood watch over kitchens and courtyards. In Japan, Shinto shrines recall kami, who protect the family stove. And in Vietnam, it is the three Ong Tao, the kitchen gods, who note each kindness and carry it gently into the sky. Why the hearth? Perhaps because fire was once the difference between hunger and a full belly, between cold stone and a room of belonging. The fire was life itself. To guard it was to guard the family. Over centuries, people began to see that it was not only flame that mattered, but the moments that gathered around it. The first meal after a wedding, the bowl of porridge shared when someone was sick, the soup stirred through the night for a tired traveler. These were not grand events, but they were the heart of living. And so they asked their gods not to measure power, but to measure presence. The grandmother pauses, and the child, though half asleep, hears her say that the ledger is not only about families, it is about forgiveness too. The kitchen gods write down quarrels, yes, but they also write down apologies. If a father and son disagree and later share tea, The reconciliation is remembered more strongly than the quarrel. If siblings quarrel over sweets and then laugh together, it is the laughter that lingers on the page. In this way, the ledger teaches a lesson. Life is not free of mistakes, but kindness has the final word. Investigators of folklore often ask, does anyone truly believe the kitchen gods ride on carp into the sky? Or are the stories simply old customs? The answer, the grandmother says, is not as important as the feeling they leave. Belief may shift, but the ritual remains, reminding each generation that their daily lives matter. Even if no gods are waiting above, the act of imagining them brings out the best in the household. Children sweep more carefully, parents forgive more quickly, neighbors share more readily. Myth becomes practice, and practice becomes love. Imagine now another family, far from rivers, in a modern city apartment. They too keep a small altar near the stove. Their children draw pictures of fish and tape them to the wall when carp cannot be released. They set out a bowl of rice and a few sweets, whispering thanks as their grandmother once did in the village. Even among traffic and high-rise lights, the ritual persists. The ledger is still written, not with bamboo, brushes, but with the rhythm of daily life. The gods, if they are listening, surely smile at the sight of laughter echoing in every kind of home. The child drifts deeper into dreams. He imagines the ledger now as vast as the night sky itself, each star a page, each constellation a paragraph of kindness. Orion's belt could be 3 brothers sharing a meal. The North Star could be a grandmother's steady light. The Milky Way might be an endless river of carp, carrying gentle words forever upward. To think of the heavens this way is to rest in the comfort that kindness does not vanish, but shines back at us when night grows still. And so we come to the close of this story. The kitchen god's gentle ledger is not a tale of fear or judgment, but of presence and care. Every shared meal, every kind word, every small forgiveness is written into the heart of the home. The carp swim upward, the ledger grows, and the world feels less lonely. Tonight, may you imagine your own kindness being written down, preserved as a light that will never fade. Now, let us settle the story with a final breath. Picture the stove glowing faintly, the altar lit with a small lamp, the night air carrying the last scent of rain. In that quiet, the kitchen gods bow their heads, close their gentle book, and leave you with warmth. The hearth is steady, the home is safe, and you are part of a story that will always be remembered with tenderness. So let the night deepen, let the stars shimmer like pages turning slowly, and let your eyes grow heavy. Sleep will come softly, like carp gliding through water, like brush strokes on paper, like a kind word whispered at the close of day. Thank you for listening to this story of the kitchen god's gentle ledger, a gentle myth. From Vietnamese tradition woven with the universal truth that the heart of a home is kept in simple kindness. If you enjoyed this quiet tale, you can find more bedtime myths here. Remember to subscribe so that each night you may rest with another gentle story waiting for you. Good night.